If you're an employer, have you ever thought about using temporary workers? If you're looking for work, would you consider using a staffing agency to find your next job? If not, you might in the future if current trends persist. Hi, I'm Wirtz, editor of the Fed-Gazette. The staffing services industry plays matchmaker between employers with temporary jobs and people looking for work. For the last 4 years, temp jobs have been growing at a fast rate. But these jobs are very sensitive to economic conditions. During the recession, their numbers plummeted, but they have since rebounded strongly across the U.S. and in the 9th District. Since the end of the recession, temporary jobs were responsible for 17% of non-farm job growth nationwide. In Minnesota, it was 19%. This for an industry that held less than 2% of all jobs at the end of the recession. Production jobs and manufacturing are still the most common type of temporary job, but other industries like healthcare and finance are increasing their use of temporary workers. Though temp jobs are relatively few in some occupations, in Minnesota, for example, virtually every classification tracked by the federal government saw strong growth from 2010 to 2013. One of the primary drivers behind temp jobs is employer demand for more flexibility in their workforce. Uncertainty also plays a big role. After the worst recession in 75 years, many employers are hiring temporary rather than full-time employees because they are unsure of the economy going forward. Political controversies and federal initiatives like the uneven rollout of the Affordable Care Act compound that uncertainty. As the unemployment rate has slowly dropped, staffing sources are now reporting tighter labor conditions and more unfilled temp jobs, with workers getting pickier about the temp jobs they accept. The strongest evidence of this is rising wages paid to temporary workers, which showed some growth in 2012, particularly in the Dakotas. But rising wages are not universal, mostly because employers are nervous about being able to pass those higher labor costs through to their customers. Despite tighter labor markets, the industry is near its historical job peak. Temporary labor now accounts for roughly 2% of non-farm employment. But to attract more workers, the industry will have to address some negative perceptions about temporary employment, namely that it benefits employers more than workers. Most signs suggest the number of temp jobs will continue to rise, however. There's a lot of room for growth based on the simple fact that only 15% of employers use staffing firms. The same could be said for workers looking for new jobs, many of whom currently see the staffing industry as a last resort rather than a first one. In short, the staffing industry will see more growth if it continues to be an effective matchmaker for employers with jobs and workers looking for employment. For much more on this topic, please see the nearby articles in the January Fed-Gazette. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at the addresses here. Thanks for watching.